So, high stakes testing reform has been one of the main educational reforms that have been implemented in the last like 2 decades or so. And when you start taking a lot of education classes, a lot of the reforms start being talked about and the debates. You get information on both sides. And for my sociology of education class, it was really big on these types of debates. We had to pick two different books. I just happened to pick two books that were anti high stakes testing. Before this, I really didn't have much of an opinion. But after I read those books, I started realizing the problems that high stakes testing had. And so for this assignment, I wanted to actually start looking at more information and maybe some scientific stuff to show why high stake testing is a problem. So for my search, I already had a head start on this because I already had two books that gave me a lot of background. Um, One of the books is The Death and Life of the Great American School System by Diane Ravitch, and that served as one of the main resources I used. The other book is Fear and Learning in America by John Kuhn, and in this it contains a letter written by John Kuhn in 2011 called the Alamo Letter, which is you can see here on the right, and it basically outlined the fight that John Kuhn felt that he was fighting against this wave of reform. Um, I also searched for scientific papers on Google Scholar to try to find some actual research because both of the two books and the letter they don't offer full research that's actually scientifically backed up. So my first question is, how is testing reform being implemented? And it's being implemented with an iron fist. The Alamo letter outlines the fight that people against high stake testing are having to fight. It's a parody of the original Alamo letter, which is written by William Travis, who was the commander of the Alamo garrison, and it's basically has a very doomed heroism feel that we're going to keep fighting no matter what. We would love help, but if not, we're going to keep fighting because it's our duty, it's what we have to do. Um, in The Death and Life of the Great American School System by Diane Ravitz, she points out that a lot of the people who are pushing this are business people. There's a lot of very rich people like Bill Gates who are pushing it, and a lot of reformers like Michelle Rhee from Washington, D.C., are really pushing it. And there isn't a whole lot of opposition because the people who are really pushing for this stuff are in the positions of power. So, some of the effects of testing, a lot of the schools who fully embrace it seem to get a lot of their test scores higher, and it seems amazing. You're having this huge change and huge improvement in test scores. But when you actually dive deeper into it, you start to realize that those scores don't actually mean what people think they mean. Students are being taught based on the test itself and not the content. So, any content that's not on the test is basically just ignored. Their students are learning how to take a test based on the testing format. So what that means is if you give the students the same test but just like in an older format, they don't score well because they only know how to take a specific type of test. Also, a lot of schools are doing what's called skimming, where they take lower performing students and they just exclude them because if you classify someone as being special needs, they don't actually count towards your testing scores. And for charter schools and stuff like that, they can just expel students and send them back to public school. Any student who wouldn't be scoring as high, so it makes their scores look even better. Um, Also, high stakes testing has a adverse effect on minority students because it doesn't increase their academic achievement, but what it does increase is their high school dropout rates, which is already a problem, and high stakes testing is making it even worse. So this assignment has shown me that even going back before high stake testing really became prominent in the mid 2000s, there was evidence and research showing that it's not a good idea. Both of the two scientific stuff or scientific papers that I found, one was from 1991, one was from 2001, both of them before testing became huge. Um, and it shows that as educators, we need to be able to push back and really dive into the numbers, understand all of the data that's being presented, and find the problems that are with it to give our students the best possible chance at education. I will admit this is a biased report. I searched problems with high stakes testing, so I'm not going to find any arguments or scientific data that backs it up. So this shouldn't be looked at as a comprehensive overview of high stakes testing, but just as a small look at some of the problems of it.